Greetings and welcome to the year of the fire horse, and welcome to the medium channel. I'm psychic medium Adam Bernstein, and today we're going to cover the 5 things that we need to know about this extraordinary and powerful new moon eclipse, lunar new year, choice astrological alignment. The cosmos are reflecting back to us things that are going on in the collective fields that really are pointing to a massive shift and a big awakening of humanity. So I'm going to get started in just a minute or two. I like to give the live people a moment to get their notifications. So if you're watching the video, hang out, or even I'll timestamp when we actually start. It'll just be a couple of minutes. So hello, Karma, and Josh. Welcome. Good to see you guys. And all right, people are starting to find us. Hello, Susan. Hello, Nancy. All right. Okie doke. So how are we doing? Lots of energy. We're already in the vibration, right? You know, it starts ahead of time. And once I go over the 5 things that we need to know, also we've got some spiritual exercises that are good for this new beginning that we're in. And I have some divination cards. We'll do that near the end also. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. So people are starting to find us. Hello, Lounsby and Iris. Welcome, Iris Ayala. If I'm pronouncing that right, welcome. And hello, Lake. Hello from New York. I'm in New York, too. It's hard to stay in 5D constantly. Yeah, I know. But we are in 5D constantly. It's where our attention is, right? Energy flows where attention goes. So if we're more expansive into the higher dimensions, we more dwell in those dimensions, basically. But they're always accessible. But we have to raise our vibration. Most people are not a vibrational match for the higher dimensions, so their attention is focused more on the 3D, sometimes the 4D. You know, a lot of us that do psychic and mediumship work, we're working with higher 4-dimensional energy, not that lower level, hopefully not that lower level mucky astral stuff, but more in the higher levels. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. I'm just biding a little bit of time right now before I actually start. But I think I've been on over 2 minutes. I think it's time to begin. It's not that much material, but this is could be the most powerful new moon, most powerful eclipse yet. And if you've been following the channel a while, you know I've been saying that a lot, but they seem to just keep getting more and more powerful. And I think that's just the trajectory that we are on. So when I go over some of the astrology, so I'm going to go over a little bit of that, go over the 5 things that we need to know. You may be able to also put together the pieces and understand the dynamics that are at play, the energies that are at play, and how that's likely to reflect in our physical world, in our community, in our consciousness, and our personal lives. So let us dive right in. Pennsylvania, and Liberty, I'm near Phoenicia, New York, so I'm in the other end of the Catskills. Well, actually, we're considered East Central Catskills where I am, but anyway. So let me get started here. I could hello Scott Hall, and Tina Smith, and anybody that I missed. Hi to you guys also. So it's an annular solar eclipse or a ring of fire eclipse. In the winter, those are more typical when we have solar eclipse, simply because the sun's larger from our perspective at Earth. Sun reaches the perigee to the Earth on January the 5th, I think, or 4th or 6th. So that's when the sun's closest. So more often than not, when you go in after the equinox, more often than not, a total solar eclipse will be a total eclipse because the sun is smaller. And of course, the moon also has an elliptical orbit, so that's at play also. So anyway, that's just a little bit of science to get us warmed up here. So it's on the 20th. No, it's on the 17th of February, 2026, high noon Universal Time, 7:01 a.m. Eastern Time here on the East Coast. And to the numerology of the day plays into how I prepare my forecast because it gives me a clue of the energy. Now, and I use Universal Time for that. It happens to fall on a universal 20-day numerology that reduces to 2. but 20 is the number of the awakening. It's judgment in the major arcana of that tarot. It's the awakener in Chaldean numerology. That's the symbol. So when the number 20 is at play, especially when I start to read off some of the other aspects, you'll understand that this is a real ascension portal that we're in. And the eclipses only intensify the energy. That's basically what they do. They don't do anything else but make it stronger, right? Probably be drinking a lot of water. I've had a live stream this morning. Some of you know that. I did an interview at 1:30, so I've been talking a lot. So anyway, and it's also a 28 degrees of Aquarius. That's where the new moon is. That's where the eclipse is. 28 reduces to 1. 1 is about new beginnings. And so all new moons are new beginnings. It's also on a 1 day, so it puts a little numerological stamp on it. So high noon, all right. 20 universal day highlights awakening. Relationships, because it reduces to 2. So relationships tend to be a big theme of this solar cycle. And the new moon is really the blueprint or the template, if you will, of how this next 29 days is going to unfold, or the whole lunar cycle. So you're right to the moment of the new moon. If you understand the aspects, the energies, and all that, you have an idea of what the foundation that you're building on in this lunar cycle is. So if you know that could be a real advantage in your own life. So relationships tend to get highlighted. That's actually not in one of my top 5 things to know about this new moon. So I'll just add it right now that it could change relationships. It could charge relationships. That could also be relationships with the divine, God, spirit, or source. Relationships with your friend, with your romantic partner, if you have one, or whatever, and stuff like that. Now, this is where it gets a little bit spicy here, because Neptune and Saturn, they've been traveling pretty much together for about a year. But this is the first time, it's actually on February the 20th, that they're going to be in an exact conjunction, like 0 arc minutes, same degree. So basically on the 17th, it's going to be probably like less than 5 arc minutes from exact conjunction. So and the other cool thing is that sextiles, there's a sextile to Pluto on one side, and then a sextile to Uranus on the other side. Pluto's about 4 degrees Aquarius presently. Uranus is at a station, so Uranus is strong at about 27 degrees Taurus. So that's about 3 degrees off. And again, the Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. 0 is the void, spirit before manifestation. So that's interesting. 0 degrees of any cardinal sign is right on the world axis. But with Aries, that's the first sign. So it's really talking about a new spiritual beginning. Because when you link Neptune, which is very ethereal energy, with Saturn, which is more sobering and grounding, that can help ground spiritual energies into more of an earthly or 3-dimensional, what's the right word? We'll just say manifestation of it, all right, for lack of a better word. So in other words, it helps to bring these things more into our human collective fields, basically, if that makes sense. So let me go back to my notes. I talked about that. Uranus also squares the eclipse. So Uranus is squaring the eclipse at 27 degrees of Taurus. The eclipse is at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So that's an astrological square. This is Western astrology, by the way. If you use sidereal Vedic astrology, it's different signs, but the angles are still the same no matter which system you use. So anyway, Mercury and Jupiter trine, that's nice. Jupiter makes everything bigger, so that opens up the energetics more, opens up consciousness, and Jupiter is at 16 degrees of Cancer, while Mercury is 6. Am I getting that right? Mercury can't possibly be at 16 degrees Pisces. I'm messing something up here. Oh, yes, it can, because we're in the late degrees Aquarius, and Mercury's about to go retrograde. So I got that right. So 16 degrees Pisces. Now, Jupiter it's moving. It's actually retrograde right now, and it's moving into an exact astrological conjunction or alignment with the fixed star Sirius, and that's kind of important also. Oh God, okay, a lot, and my mouth's really dry. It's moving into a conjunction with Sirius. Jupiter expands. Now, Sirius has a really interesting quality that it's to me, it's like a spiritual portal that's kind of taking cosmic energy, frequency, or information and expressing it into our collective field. So that's like an energetic quality that I've observed by gazing at Sirius. Now, to be clear, they're very different declinations. So it's more like a vertical alignment horizontally. Like Jupiter's very high in the sky, the star Sirius is lower, closer to the horizon, and you can find Sirius if you find Jupiter, and then just go kind of due south, maybe a tad west of south. Or if you know where Orion's belt is, follow Orion's belt. It's going to be the only bright object in the sky. Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. Jupiter's a planet that's brighter. So anyway, let me go back to my notes. So Jupiter's moving into conjunction with Sirius at 14 degrees of Cancer. Jupiter expands, Sirius activates consciousness, sends a spiritual light. So lots of energy there. And it's also Lunar New Year, right? The year of the fire horse. So the year of the snake is shedding the old skin. It's very internal. It's learning lessons. It's wisdom. Now we can bring that wisdom into the light and use it to manifest things in our own light, basically. So that's really cool energy. So we take our wisdom and we bring that out into the world, and we work with that. Jupiter very active in this eclipse. It's also a universal 3-month February. That's Jupiter guided numerology. So Jupiter is very active. Also Uranus. So Jupiter expands, right? It makes things larger. Uranus is very active. It's in Aquarius, the sun and moon. That's Uranus ruled. Uranus is aspecting this, so Uranus is very active. Also the sun, also by that 28 degrees, of course, the moon, obviously. So anyway, there's a little touching on some of the main players. There's other astrological aspects I didn't touch on. But yeah, so to take all that wisdom, all those lessons, and assimilate it into positive action. And that leads me into the first important thing to know about this very special annular eclipse in the moon. Assimilate lessons into action. And we can do that in our personal lives, and we can see that happening in the world around us. Snake is very internal, sheds the skin, transmutes the poison into medicine. So I know I have in a lot of different ways. And sometimes when you're in it, you don't even realize until you start to come out of it. And I did, with my, sort of precipitated by my brother's passing right at the beginning of the year, the snake, I might add. So it's been a year, and until I started to come out of it, I didn't even realize that I was really in a lot of grief, and it was definitely affecting my work to some degree. But I'm back, and the fire horse. So snake is right, and fire horse allows that energy to be used for positive change and growth. So this is the time to come out into the light, basically, right? We're only a few days, or maybe a week or so past astrological Imbolc, which is the midway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. Imbolc is a Celtic or neo-pagan celebration of in the belly, or the first light, basically, which is celebrated on the 1st or 2nd of February. But it becomes exact more towards the 6th. So it's in that neighborhood anyway. So what else? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So now's the time to assimilate. Maybe we still have a few days. There's a cusp period. So the energy is already activating in really just about 36 hours. We begin the year of the fire horse. So then the next day, tomorrow, this would be a good time just to be relaxed, eat light, get your energies higher, put the intention now, everything that I've learned and grown, I'm coming out of that cave of hibernation, of introspection. That's more bear medicine than snake medicine, but it fits the energetics. We've learned a lot, we've grown a lot, we've cleared a lot, right? Shed a lot of skin. Now it's time to act. So everybody's going to receive blessings, and this is the time to, because it's the fire horse has that kind of Jupiterian, Sagittarian vibe, as it were. Like the year of the snake had a bit more of a Scorpio vibe. It's really time to be large, and Jupiter's very active, so Jupiter's a main player in this energy. So time to be large. We are not here to be small. You're not developing your spirituality, developing your gifts or whatever to stay behind the scenes. I mean, for some people that is their job, and I'm speaking generally, not for every single person that's on the live stream, but I think you get the gist of that. And a lot of us, me included, it's taken me a lot of reprogramming to be able to do this for you now, because I'm very empathic also, like a lot of you. I don't have a love for scrutiny, for a lot of people staring at me because I feel their energies. I've got to decord constantly because I feel when people are thinking about me, and of course, the bigger I get on YouTube, the more that energy is. But you know what? I have tools to overcome that. It's not a big deal or anything. So for me, I've got to get those fears out of the way. That fear of criticism, scrutiny. These are some of my shadow aspects of having a well-meaning but critical parent wanting me to be the best that I can be. But sometimes it, for certain souls, it could go in the opposite direction. So anyway, you get the gist of that. So assimilate lessons, whatever we've learned. This is the time that you're going to start to assimilate it into action. And we all have the potential to be very successful and to grow this year. So that's the good news. So the second thing to know is new horizons. It's very expansive. It's new energy, new horizons. That's actually a Moody Blues song for the music people here. The fire horse and all the spiritual aspects make this a time of spiritual awakening. And you will, if you're doing the work, you will reach your next level. And we're doing a lot of work. Speaking of that, on Tuesday at 7 p.m., Heather and I are going to do your activations, the full moon eclipse activations for you. Normally on Tuesdays, do it at 8 because I don't like to overlap what's Laura's channel's name? Let's Spirit Guide, because she does her readings at that time. But Heather's a parent; she's got to put her child to bed and all that. So we're doing it at 7. And like I said, I don't like to overlap because I know a lot of you guys like to go to both. So my suggestion is do hers if she's doing it this week. Do hers because you can do ours on the replay. It has the same power. You can't exactly get a reading on the replay. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So New Horizons, all the spiritual aspects. So you will reach your next level, mass awakening on the planet. So we've been in a process of accelerated awakening on the planet. Our process has been accelerating. Time's been speeding up, all that stuff. So that is very much going on, and it's reaching another level, like exponentially, I think. So a lot more people are going to start to awaken, and they're not going to know where to turn. And those of us that are doing the work, we're going to be very blessed that some of you may experience a spiritual initiation and a quantum leap to your next level. Spiritual growth isn't a gentle slope. You leap, and then you assimilate what's on that level, and then when you're ready, you make your next leap. We call that awakening. I can identify 3 separate awakenings that I had. The first one in 1978, which was really a shaking. It's like spirit touched me. I saw the bright light. And I was starting out martial arts training, so I probably opened up a little bit because of that. And my first impression was, because I saw through the illusion in that flash. That's why it was a shaking. I saw through the illusion. I got touched by spirit. My first thought is everything I thought I knew is a lie. Now I need to learn the truth. And I had these crazy things and crazy gifts surface that started to balance. But anyway, so New Horizon, what else do I have to say about it? It's a 20 universal day plus eclipse energy. This is truly an awakening portal. So Heather and I are going to help you with that through energetic activations. So it's really a beautiful time. Anything else to say about New Horizons, spiritual awakening? I think I've said what I need to say. So there's a good time to really focus more on your spiritual growth. Set your intentions, set your goals, and everything overlaps. Just because we're in the year of the fire horse and you still have some shadow integrating and clearing to do, doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just sort of a natural flow of energy that makes it more conducive to starting to take your lessons into the world and apply that to your own awakening, as well as your own success and things like that. So New Horizons, spiritual awakening, big, huge portal for that. Also, we have that Neptune-Saturn conjunction. You have Saturn grounds and crystallizes and manifests the energy. Neptune's very nebulous, but very much connected to higher frequencies and higher light. So it's all there. It's all, literally written into the stars. And one of the things that I love about astrology and numerology is it provides a reflection of what's going on in the collective field, like something we can look at and measure. And to me, it's more about the planetary geometry, and each planet has a certain resonance. So there's a certain energy associated with it. There's an archetypal meaning of each planet that resonates in the collective fields. So all these things, because it taps into a certain belief system that we have, Spirit's always pointing us in the direction of truth. And the thing is, if you believe in numerology, you're going to get signs through the numbers. If you believe in astrology, you're going to get signs through the stars. If you believe in something else, that's how Spirit's going to show, because Spirit, your higher self, is always trying to point you in the direction of your truth, your growth. It's our programming and the different layers of shadows or whatever that tends to be more what obstructs us. It's the subconscious stuff that we have to clear in order to reach the next level. So anyway, where's number 3? I went from one New Horizons. Oh, here we go. Number 3. The great exposure. So one of the things that the Saturn energy combined with Neptune's also about illusions and delusions. Saturn has that very sobering, let's be real kind of energy. Let's do the work. It's karmic. So in your life, a lot is going to get exposed. And again, this could carry through the whole year of the fire horse, but particularly this lunar cycle. And of course, when there's a solar eclipse, there's usually almost always a lunar eclipse either before or after it. So we have a lunar eclipse, a long track lunar eclipse, which means that the sun and the moon are very connected, coming up in 2 weeks or 15 days or so. So the great exposure in your life, in the world, the fire horse, that's about truth, right? The horse energy, straight line, and honor the horse now. Horses are magnificent spiritual beings that come here. And I know that some of you that ride horses or know horses know that you can connect with your horse telepathically. It's almost like you don't need the reins so much after a while, because you and the horse blend in consciousness, and the horse knows where you want to go. So they come to us in service, basically, and to teach us. And when the horse was introduced to the native people here, there was a level of freedom and empowerment, because all of a sudden you can cover a lot more ground on horseback than you can on foot. Now, that also led to some clashes between different native nations. So horse energy can, if it's misdirected, can be aggressive also. So that's another thing to be aware of. So these are things that we're going to see in the world also, some increase of that until people finally wake up enough to work on ending the wars and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, great exposure, your life, the world, fire horse. Eclipse is about light and shadows. So this is exposing the shadows also. So that energy plays in as well. Saturn Neptune conjunction helps expose deep corruption and ground spiritual and intuitive energies. So that could be in society. You think there's been a lot of exposure so far? We're just getting warmed up here. It's going to cascade. It's not all going to happen this month. It's not even all going to happen this year, but I think we're going to get a big jump. Okay. What does Spirit want to say? I just heard the buzzing. They're just saying to remind you to stay in your heart, because that's your power. When you're in the heart energy and heart frequency, and you get on your fire horse, then you can direct your life and direct your helper or the horse energy. If hopefully I'm explaining this the way they're trying to show me, that helps direct it more towards your truth, basically. So when you're in your heart, you're not so affected by the programming, all the stress, because the heart's frequency, it's electromagnetic frequency, stronger than anywhere else in your body by a good margin, according to Heart Math Institute and others. So I feel like that reminded me, if you ride your fire horse, it's important to be in the heart frequency. So here on the Medium channel, we teach and we practice. I always practice what I preach and teach. Heart-brain coherence. It's a brilliant and simple practice for these times, for all times really, but really succinct in these times. More water. And what else? So sometimes it takes great. Oh, okay. I think they're talking about the whole drama with Donald Trump and everything. I wish I had mentioned this in tarot time when that came up. But sometimes it takes great corruption to expose great corruption. So people, it may not just be Trump, it could be other politicians. What if they're playing a role in this great awakening or this, I should say, massive awakening? I just don't like the political undertones of that term, just because it's polarized. I have nothing against it, just because it polarizes people. I mean, I know they're just words, but anyway, what if he and others are really playing a role? What if Epstein and the people on that list? I mean, it's horrific, granted, but what if it's all happening to expose all this deep corruption? So that's really part of the great exposure, I want to say. So with our American president, love him or hate him, perhaps there's a higher purpose to it. And my theory is that the sooner we get it as a collective, the sooner we'll be done with that. And personally, I'll be happy when this phase is over. Not to place any judgments on the president. It's just the polarization, the fact that it's getting people like arguing, fighting. It's destroying friendships, breaking families apart, all the stuff, basically. So if you understand, maybe there's a higher purpose, and maybe not to get so wrapped up in the polarization, because that's part of the programming. That's part of what's keeping us down. That's part of what's being exposed. Then it can happen more smoothly. And once things are exposed, yeah, the tower falls. It can cause economic collapses, government collapses, but we have the truth and we can build on a stronger foundation now. So that's part of the great exposure, basically. All right. Where are we? I'm rattling papers here. So the number 4, the fourth thing to know about that, to see what you guys are saying. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Scott. Hi, Barbara. And Alex and anybody that I missed. Hi. So the fourth thing we need to know is this is a time of new beginnings. All new moons are new beginnings because it's a new cycle. Everything in our reality happens in cycles because energy moves in waves. That's what frequencies are. High frequencies, shorter wavelengths, low frequencies, longer wavelengths. We talk about high frequencies being better or more spiritual. Well, in some sense, that's true, but consider the Schumann resonance. That's a wavelength that's so long that one wavelength equal to the diameter of the Earth, or is it the circumference? If anybody knows it, you can correct me. Point being is that Schumann resonance is an extremely low frequency, but it is the heartbeat of the planet. It's basically how the Earth is translating cosmic information into the Earth fields. So it's affected and affects things like thunderstorms, snow, geology, space weather, and all that stuff goes into feeding and perpetuating the Schumann resonance. So basically, I think I explained that enough. Either we get it or we don't, right? So new beginnings, Lunar New Year, right? It's a new moon, obviously, because it's Lunar New Year. I think that's always the Aquarius moon. I think it's always when the Lunar New Year falls. So because it's 28 degrees Aquarius, that means it's kind of later than usual. Usually it's at the very beginning, but it's that 28 degree, which reduces to 1. That's another new beginning. And so it begins a cycle. So start something new now. If it's new, it's for you, right? That's the byline. Expect new trends in the news, new organizations to spring to life, new spiritual organizations, new individuals combating corruption or spreading love, or both, enlightenment and stuff like that. And so this is a good time, like if you like to set intentions or light candles, this is a good time to be doing that, right around the new moon. I feel like the new moon to 72 hours after, 3 days after, is an ideal time to do that. Right during the time of the eclipse, that's more of a time just to step back. I don't like to work during eclipses. I definitely don't channel during the eclipse. That's a time to just really absorb things, because it's still a new moon. It's just an eclipse is more powerful than the average new moon, based on the fact that the declination is the same as well as the degree point of the sign. So it's like the sun and the moon are together. And if it's not an eclipse, the moon's either going to be slightly above or slightly below the sun. It's still very close. So there's albeit subtle, there's a gravitational effect that's going to lead to 0.5, by the way. We see it in the tide, right? And an eclipse is going to have the strongest, the king tides, the strongest tides. It affects the earth, maybe by a fraction of a millimeter, but the earth responds too. So the earth rises just a little bit. And what does that do? If there's any earthquakes or volcano right at the brink of being tripped, just that energy, just that slight gravitational pull can set that off. But for my money, it's more of the magnetism, the electromagnetic influences, and how that influences the earth, the sun, and the effects on consciousness more than anything. So it's like a new moon on steroids, that. And because it's going to be more in South America, there could be some earthquakes. Drake Passage gets a lot of earthquakes between South America and Antarctica. I believe Antarctica itself could have some volcanic or I've been saying this for months, so nothing's happened yet, but I believe that could be. But it could be anywhere in the world. So start something new, expect new trends in the news. All right, we talked that. So the fifth point, and this is a little bit more of the Satyrian part, more the sobering energy. The thing that we need to know is to stock up, and I'll explain why. Partly because, well, let me go into my notes here. One thing is, and it's funny in a way. I just caught a new video of Stefan Burns just a couple of hours ago. I started watching this morning, then I went back to it. And they discovered a comet about a month ago, a very large comet, probably from the Oort belt, which is still theoretical. We don't know if there really is an Oort belt, but but there is, put it that way. And on April the 4th, it could fly right into the sun. And I was seeing the models on Stefan Burns' video. The reason this is interesting is because I just dropped, I don't know if it was the forecast I did yesterday or the one that I released on Wednesday, but I talked about early April that I feel like there could be an asteroid or a comet affecting the sun and creating solar activity. And then a day later, I see that on a video. So that's really, really cool. So anyway, that's April 4th, 4/4. Well, within 40 days, Energetic window of eclipse effects. Okay, so when there's an eclipse, it charges things up also. And some astrologers say it's up to 6 months, which means we're always under the influence of an eclipse because eclipse season happens every 5.5 to 6.5 months. But 40 days feels like that's really the eclipse window. Like if we're going to have major events that are catalyzed by it, it's likely to happen then. So stock up. What if the lights go out? The Earth's magnetic field has weakened, right? It's a natural process. We may be undergoing a geomagnetic excursion. We may be undergoing a full polar flip here on the Earth. But either way, when the poles are moving like that, the magnetic field is weakening, and when it's weaker, that means more of the sun's energy, the ionic plasmic energy of the sun is able to penetrate and activate more in the ionosphere, especially the interplanetary magnetic field is a negative, or if you're a northern lights chaser, you would know that it's BZ negative. Yeah, and you know that when that happens, last night there were auroras. In the Adirondacks there were auroras. There was not a filament ejection. The coronal hole stream hadn't reached the Earth yet. There was no there was a couple of C-class flares, but they don't really do anything. But sometimes just the activity on the sun alone can produce a weak magnetic field, and then the belts are all charged. The radiation belts charged. We have so much solar activity lately. We're right beginning the descending phase where the radiation belts are charged up. The magnetic fields are all charged up. So it doesn't take a lot to create a geomagnetic storm, point being. So what if the lights go? What if this comet flies into the sun? It produces a Carrington type event, and then the lights go out, electronics go out. You want to be ready for that. Prepare for the disaster that will never happen, basically. So that's why I'm saying this is a little bit more of a sobering thing. If the lights go out, people will get desperate. People will steal. They'll rob. Who was it? Oh, Ben Davidson. Of course, Ben Davidson. Of course. He recommends that everybody have firearms to prepare what he calls for the disaster cycle. That's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm still practicing my martial arts, I'll put it that way, but people get desperate. It's very explosive energy now, and that also has an effect on the geology. So it may not, and hopefully never in our lifetimes will we experience an event so powerful that we lose the lights for years. Hopefully never, but this helps to precipitate earthquakes also and volcanoes. And we're going to have another coronal hole stream that's a high velocity, low density impact of ionic plasma. And according again to Stefan Burns and others, I research other people, kind of cross reference, and I trust my intuition about that. And I feel like it's accurate. That's when the big earthquakes often happen. Is when the plasmic density drops to below 1. Basically, that would happen before the big Kamchatka Peninsula 8.8, the biggest earthquake we've had in 14 years, basically. So anyway, also solar wind conditions this week are conducive to earthquakes, volcanoes. So I explained why that is. Volcanoes especially, I think volcanoes are really going to be in the news. I've been saying that in the recent months' forecasts as well. You've got more. Sun gets very active. Comet interaction around 4/4 could elicit that. Now, could be big flares this week. We have the eclipse energy that creates that affects the circuitry of the sun, to have that sun, moon, Earth in direct alignment. We have Saturn and Neptune also in direct alignment, albeit very weak and subtle because they are outer planets, but it still has an effect. And this is just increases the percentages. It does not guarantee anything, to be clear. So odds pick up again. Okay, so we could have this week there could be an eventful solar activity. I do believe some sunspot groups are going to rotate in. We're actually starting the descending phase of the sun right now. So people might be thinking, oh, good, that it's over. But no, some of the biggest flares in history have happened during the early descending phase. The Halloween storm of 2003 is a prime example of that. And we happen to be right now in solar cycle 25, pretty much at the same point that we were in solar cycle 23 when that mini Carrington event happened. And I saw white auroras that you could read by here in the Catskills shoot from the northern horizon to about 2/3 of the way through the southern horizon. You can see the ribbons of light. There's a little bit of greens and purples and reds on the edges. These were white auroras, and white is very, very intense energy. Right now, the magnetic field is probably about 2 to 3% weaker than it was then. A similar event where everything is so charged up, that could trigger a lot. So anyway, early descent. Oh, I said that. Now it's in my notes. So odds pick up again early March. So that's the next period that I feel like could be. Now we have to also keep an eye on the full moon. That's oh, that isn't early March. Hello, or the end of February. So early March to mid March, that feels eventful. Then early April again, and especially with the potential, even if the comet survives, it's its closest passes to the sun. I can't even remember the name of that. Okay, I've been working a lot. Excuse me, but anyway, even if it doesn't like hit the sun, but when I was watching Stephan's Bird, it was coming, and the model showed it actually hitting the sun on the eastern limb. And you know what? If it hits on the eastern limb, that's probably going to create a solar flare, a coronal mass ejection that could be Earth directed. So that's around April the 4th. So heads up. So what else? Early descending phase Norhars for notorious for 10x and plus flares. And Earth feels weaker. Also, this also increases geopolitical tension. So it's not just the sun and the earth. It affects the collective conscious. So it increases that. The controlled surveillance agendas come more to light. Interfacing agendas like interfacing with technology, that comes more to light. Increased energy, increased volatility, intensified weather systems, more intense heat waves and cold snaps. And the flood drought cycle intensifies. So there's bigger floods, bigger droughts, stronger storms. And the point being, this time is more likely for long-term communication or power outages. So it's good to prepare. It's good to know what we're going to do. It's good to start planning for the big event. Maybe even thinking about more being communities. Know your farmers, know your communities. It's a good idea to have at least have a tank of gas in your car at all times, because if things go out and they don't come back and there's no reason for it, use what gas you have in your car to drive to whoever you feel comfortable being with in case there's a long-term power outage. You know your local farmers. You'll have food, have supplies on hand. I've got to rebolster my supply kit. I could go for a month, maybe a month and a half, but I want to be able to go longer in case something happened. So it's good to be aware, not scared. This is just part of nature, and we built a grid that's vulnerable to solar activity. It is what it is. So it's good to have a plan, maybe to start thinking about, if things get really crazy here on Earth, if the control systems really clamp up, despite the fact that there's more awakening energy, connect with those who are wanting to continue their organic, authentic awakening rather than the artificial experience of, advanced AI and stuff like that. So anyway, what time is it? Oh, we've been going for a good while. Oh yeah, an amateur radio, great idea, very good idea. Yeah. Anyone else buffering? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I'm missing a lot of your comments tonight. Oh, you have firearms. Good. Yeah. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. I learned how. Part of my martial arts training was learning how to use firearms. Martial arts teacher. He was actually in the Black Panther Party back in the day, so he knows a thing or two about civil rights and militantism. Is that even a word? So basically, he's saying, if if you don't have a gun and they got a gun, you're probably going to lose the fight. So you should learn how to learn how to use firearms. So that I thought that was a good idea, right? But good idea with the amateur radio. Have your medication. If you take medications, have your herbs, have your supplies, have your food. Have your wits about you, have your brain, and stay clear. Whatever happens, God's spirit or source is going to watch over us, and we're going to be okay in the end. So if something that extreme happens, we'll get through it, and that's the main thing to know. Yeah. So again, if I'm missing anything, if you guys know other things that might be good to have on hand, you definitely let me know. Have a bunch of matches. I've got 3 big boxes of kitchen matches here. That's good to have also, right? Your lighters will run out. Your generators, you won't be able to gas up your generators after a while. So no power for anybody if it goes on long enough. So you may need to literally learn how to make fires, especially if it's happening in the winter. Not a bad idea. I've got a butane stove. The only thing with that is that it's not a bad idea, even if it's cold out, to leave your window open a crack and have a CO2 detector handy if you're going to use propane or butane indoors. That's just common sense. But when there's a crisis, common sense tends to go out of the window. Why? Because we're anxious. We're in anxiety and fear. We're cutting ourselves off from our higher selves, and we're not thinking straight. So it's good to know in advance, a little mental rehearsal, what you would do if that happened and what supplies you need. So anybody else, candles? I've got 800 candles here. And you know what? I have a smaller bedroom. It could be 20 degrees out. If I have a dozen candles, it wouldn't be like balmy or comfortable, but my room would be survivable. If it's 0 degrees out, maybe I'll have 20 candles going, and it would be over 50 degrees in my room. Don't underestimate the power of candles, right? And of course, you need that for light at night. So I've got 800. I'm there, yeah. Anybody else? I need to get some dry food and water. Get life straws. I need to get another one. Get life straws. That way you don't. Yeah, and I have a stove that I have 2 stoves. One I can fill with wood. One I can use the propane. Right, that my propane heater can be a stove also, because you might need to boil water. And I'm by a creek. I'm by the Esopus Creek. The Esopus Creek is not going to go dry. It's not going to run dry. But you may not have access to water, which means you need to know where you're going to get drinking water and how you're going to be able to deal with it. So thank you, everybody. Wind up electrical devices, absolutely. 150 pounds of rice, not a bad idea. I should do the same. I need to get a bunch more oats. I've been eating my oats. I've got high protein food. I've got dried bean, but I need to get a kit. That's what I need, of dried food that can, so that I have longer. Anyway, thanks. Don't forget the toilet paper. Yeah, unless you enjoy using your hand, don't forget the toilet paper. Thank you. Exactly. And Nancy saying Costco has cattleman chili with 38 grams of protein. We earthquake prep peanut butter and crackers. Very good. So good. You guys are on it. Yeah, I need to get a bunch more toilet paper. Thanks for reminding me. All right. So I wanted to go over, the usual stuff that I mention a lot. Do your heart brain coherence, do your grounding work, and feeling the flows of nature. But in my last video, I also shared a solar technique that you can use. You can continue doing your shadow integration. It's not like a light flips, like something you flip a switch. Okay, I'm not in the snake anymore. I can't do shadow work. It always overlaps, right? So these are trends, these are generalities, not necessarily specifics, but I have playlists on how to do heart brain coherence. I have a playlist for that. I have another playlist on how to do shadow integration work. These are things to do, doing your meditation work, your presence work, stuff like that. But there's a nice meditation that you can work with the sun and the energy of the sun, and also with the star Sirius that I was mentioning earlier. Sirius is really a binary star, so there's really two of them, and what I like to do with Sirius is, and I have about a month or so, because I'm in the mountains, so from around December through the beginning of March, that's my window of opportunity where I get a good clear view of Sirius. It's tend to be pretty deep in the southern sky here in the Catskill Mountains, and just gaze it and just receive the energy. It's like light code frequency. It transmits energy of intelligence, of cosmic intelligence, through that portal energy. And if you gaze at it, you can absorb that. I wouldn't have believed in myself. I would have kind of brushed it off as too new agey for me if I didn't actually do it myself and experience it myself. And in my mind, it turned into Morse code. In my mind, it was blinking the first time I did it. I mean, I know all stars twinkle, but that was crazy. So anyway, but with the sun, you do your heart brain coherence, open your heart. Now, if it's warm enough to be in the physical sun, great, and you can feel the sun. But if not, visualize the sun, feel it in your mind. Feel your heart open in coherence, which is gratitude, appreciation, love, compassion. Almost like a big lens, like a magnifying glass, and just feel the sun radiate and magnify through your heart and your brain that are connected through your body, and just let the sun charge you up. This is a way of tapping into the light code frequencies. It's a language that this physical sun and Sirius also do it on a different level, but the physical sun is able to translate the energy of the central sun, or the light of spirit, or divine soul, basically, and is able to translate it into a certain frequency that it can help to trigger activations of our DNA, basically. So if you do that and just sit with that and just feel like you're absorbing the sunlight, and do that daily, the sun's going to work with you to assist in your awakening and ascension, and make you feel like this is the time to start doing that. So let's see. Costco has. Oh, we got that. Okay. Dog and Tribe. See. Thank you for that. Put all items in plastic containers, keep it nearby, and have a smaller one in your car. Trust me, I've been through 2 major earthquakes. Yeah, right. If we had, and just because I'm in the Northeast in the Catskills, I shouldn't assume that I won't have a major earthquake here. It's not likely, but there's I think 5 fault lines that run around here. I mean, some of them are technically dormant, but point being, anywhere on the earth can have a major impactful earthquake. And yeah, if things aren't plastic, they're going to fall all over the floor, and you're not going to be able to use it. Good idea, especially for people that are in those zones. California, anywhere around the Ring of Fire, New Madrid Fault, although that seems to have cooled off a little bit for now. Yeah, well, I was in the one in April or March, I think it was in 2024. It's a 4 or something in northern Jersey. So I was sitting in Kingston Nissan, which is now Romeo Nissan, and all of a sudden I felt the rocking. Sometimes I feel that when my Kundalini's activating. So I had to look, and sure enough, the shells were moving. And there's a guy in the corner. This is like he's a very lively African American man. He's like, "Yo, we're having an earthquake." He was like really animated about it. So that was the one here in the East Coast that I actually felt. It was kind of a gentle rocking, but anyway, we have that, right. So we definitely can have them here. Exactly. So let's Yeah, well, I want to keep this at an hour. Let me pull a divination card or two for more messages. Um, yeah, exactly. You just want to be prepared for anything. It's good to be prepared. To me, that's not fear based. That's empowerment. I mean, it could be fear based. It could be taken in that direction, but I'm not afraid of it. Especially if I'm prepared. Right? There's nothing to fear. God, spirit, source will take care of us. If you've been following the trends of my forecast, just recently, a couple months ago, I picked up on an earthquake. I told people around San Diego to the Mexican border to be aware. I'm seeing an earthquake there. There was an earthquake. It was like a 4, or it might have been a 5. It was a moderate earthquake. And I was saying, beware. That could have been a foreshock. I don't think it was a foreshock because I think there wasn't any activity after that. So that happens sometimes. I predicted one in California, and then there was a 7. But I got the right month, but it was offshore, so nobody was really that affected by it. So these are the things that have been coming up in my forecast. And I mean, I'm not 100% accurate. I don't think any psychic is, to be honest. Some of the forecasts don't verify. More do than don't. But some of them don't. But usually they do. But very often in a manner that's not as impactful as what it could have been. Basically, so that's what I'm trying to say. So some of you know that I've been seeing like these waves around Hawaii and into my mind and into like off of the California and Oregon coast. It feels like energy waves, but I interpret that 2 ways. I think more significant volcanic activity, probably on the Big Island, because that's where the active volcanoes are of Hawaii. But also because it was waves, I'm just saying, just be aware. If this manifests as a tsunami, the San Andreas fault around the Bay Area goes off the land and into the water, and then you have the Cascadian subduction zone that I think intersects that or aligns with that, and either of those could have big earth. Those could have big thrust, mega thrust earthquakes that produce tsunamis. So that's been starting to sense that since September. We're February. West Coast people, be aware of that. I mean, there's always a possibility, right? But be aware there's an elevated risk now. And an elevated risk may be instead of like 0.1%, it's 0.5 or 0.7%, but it's still an elevated risk. So anyway, Starseed Oracle message, because we're on. What have you seen for the San Madre? Is that San Andreas or is that a different fault line? Because I don't know what the San Madreas is. Is that more along the Sierra Madres, maybe? South America. You're talking about that. South America is probably, well, I know it's much more prone to earthquakes than California. Truth be told, California is not the most earthquake prone area in the planet. It's not even close. Off of Russia, Kamchatka Peninsula, Japan, South America, much more earthquake prone, Indonesia. But California is very, very populated, and a lot of us are Americans. So obviously there's a lot of focus there. But yeah, around Chile, speaking of the Sierra Madres, if you have interest in South America, the biggest earthquake ever recorded 9.5 magnitude. By the way, 9.5 magnitude, 50 times stronger than a 9.0 magnitude earthquake. And it was a 9.1 that produced the mega tsunami in Japan. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I even if you're saying San Andreas, right, instead of San Madres, but if you were saying San Madres, you jogged my memory to say that's an area that to really keep an eye on. Yeah, especially given that the eclipse is a southern hemisphere. Yeah, that's where the active eclipse is. That's where more energy is concentrated in. So what did we get here? The blue flame. Let's work with the blue flame. That's the throat. That's the third eye. That's peace. That's that. And spontaneous awakening. Well, that's the theme. I think activation, integration time. So we're going to do an activation Tuesday night at 7. Heather Istaro, a lot of you know and love her. She's a brilliant healer, gentle yet powerful and compassionate. And then I do my thing with the master teacher. So we work on aligning your frequency so that you can be a better match for these new energies in portal. That way you can take better advantage of it and you have less problems in the period of adjusting to higher frequencies. So we help you to align vibrationally internally to match what's going on energetically around us, and that way we step through the portal with ease and we take advantage of the upgrades that are available to us. So this is what the card looks like. An indigo flame, yeah, exactly. That, watch the Hayward fault especially, but yeah, brain fart. New Madrid, okay. I'm still suspicious. That was a prediction. That's an example of a prediction that really never verified. And I in that area, there was a little cluster of earthquakes. I mean, if that's what I was picking up on, great. But I was feeling that for 2025. So I'd say it's still worth keeping an eye on. The fact that there hasn't been a lot of eruptive activity and it's an active fault line. What was it, like 1805, I think, when there was the last big one there? Keep an eye on that. Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye. And looks like an indigo flame. Yeah. It looks like walking through the portal, doesn't it now? Very astute. Yeah. For new activity, they are not reporting a lot of it. Oh, are you saying that there's been activity that's unreported? Usually Stefan Burns will be on top of that. So, yeah. Horses triggers hope. This is your year, dear. Year of the fire horse. Yes. Either way, yes. All right, so let's do a couple more. I don't want to do that. I do want to do the totem animals. I'm just so into animals these days. So see the numbers are going up and down a lot. So we're near the end, so you can start the beginning if you're interested. So I'm going to ask Spirit to give us the best representation of the energies through these medicine cards, the totem animal. Funny, in my mind, I'm seeing a mound, but I'm seeing an orb, like a circle around the top of the mountain, almost like, and it's like blue and it's like spherical. And I'm talking about it's getting closer. I think, to reiterate, I think this is really like a huge ascension portal. I think we've been warming up to this moment now. So anyway, let's see what totem at. All right, let me clear my mind a second. Stop thinking, Adam. Okay, I will stop thinking. There we go. See, when I stop thinking, my hand just moved. Butterfly, transformation, beautiful. We got the eagle this morning on tarot time. So for this new moon portal, butterfly, right? Time to metamorphosize. It's like angel energy. Like we've been a caterpillar the last year. Now we're shedding that caterpillar skin. We're going to the chrysalis now, so we can emerge as butterflies, basically. Spread those wings. Again, this is the time to show what you have, to assimilate all the knowledge and wisdom you gained in the last year into affirmative action. That was point number 1 for those that came on a little bit late. The fire horse fires action, horses move. So this is the time where we can be very successful, apply what we've learned, how we've grown, even if we've had painful lessons, which a lot of us have. They're for the highest good. Now you can thrive, basically, because you've walked the walk. You stepped through the ring of fire, basically, and you've come out brighter. Through that ring of fire, you burned off a layer that you don't need anymore, and then you're ready to now, come into your power. Basically, that's what the horse does. They come into your power. And last but not least, all right, we've been on over an hour. We'll do one more, and then we'll call it a night. It's a night. Saying batteries. Yes, I have lots of batteries too. Waterproof matches, fireplace, water filtration, hygiene supplies. Thank you for that. blue orb, got the chills. Yeah, right around the mountain, it was a blue circle. And I'm keep bringing that vision back. It was a snow-capped mountain. It almost feels very Arcturian, like I don't know. I mean, since I'm part Arcturian starseed, I should know these things. They're saying yes, that absolutely is an Arcturian symbol, um, and there's a portal like Kilauea where the volcanoes are really active now. Speaking of volcanoes in Hawaii, that's Arcturian portal that I discovered when I went there. Also, so we got help from our extraterrestrial friend, and God, spirit source, the interdimensional, the inner earth beings. Take your pick. They're helping to mitigate or soften some of the blows. And the more we can raise our consciousness, the less we resist, the more smoothly and fluidly we're going to come into New Earth with less upheaval, less trauma, less drama. And the more people that are able to do that, the smoother we're going to transition. I mean, there's still going to be things we have to adjust to. There may still be a few shocks, but that's the key, is non-resistance, not to hold on. So that could be point number 6. Time to not hold on to the past, right? Not hold on to these lessons. Been there, done that. Thank you, Spirit God, for all that I learned. I now release that back into life, and I step onto my fire horse at this new moon eclipse and right off into the sunset, right? And here we go. Soul time. Is that like hammer time? You remember what was I forgot his initials, but I like hammer time. It's hammer time. The frequency of soul time asks us to allow the possibility of a new reality to emerge, whether it embraces the concept that while the corporeal body is mortal, the soul is timeless, limitless, and infinite. And MC Hammer, thank you, Alex. MC Hammer, yes. It's hammer time. Kitty litter, not a bad idea. Yeah, and duct tape, great idea. Bleach, yeah. Vinegar, yeah. Thank you for that. Sometimes, I forget sometimes. Where I live, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm in the village of Phoenicia. I mean, I'm in the outskirts, but this is still considered the village. So I've got a creek on one side. I've got woods on the other. It's like push comes to shove. I can get water. I can build a fireplace and find wood and maintain that. Not everybody has that luxury. So where you are, if you're in the city, obviously your preparation kit's going to be a little bit different than mine, because you can't exactly have a fire, like dig into the floor of the 23rd floor of an apartment and build the fire pit and breathe in all the smoke, right? Oh, sorry. Well, that this one was worth keeping up there for a while, yeah. So anyway, so that's the energy. So you can kind of gaze in the middle of this and kind of absorb some of the energies of this. So I've got 2 videos. That one I uploaded yesterday. I actually uploaded one last Wednesday, and then I got new information. It was incomplete, so I have 2 February 17th videos. That's the day of the new moon. So this is the 3rd one. So I've got more information on those. Just go to the channel page and find them. And I think it's the 2nd one. You'll see my prediction for the comet that I wasn't aware of yet. It was discovered in January, but not by me. So anyway, so yeah, it's good that you're on an acre of land. Yeah, and again, we're soul family. As things progress, as the heat gets turned on more and more, and we feel more, if it comes to that, more of a need to pull away from society. In a perfect world, the awakening will happen through integration of the more spiritual people with the mainstream society. I mean, that may be a bit of a pipe dream on my part, or not, but probably. And even with the mass awakening, more people getting it, you just go out there and you just see how programmed and controlled people are and how thick they are. It's like it's going to take a lot to get through that. So chances are, if it comes to that a lot of us will be kind of pulling away from mainstream society and being together, maybe living off grid, maybe being farmers, whatever it is. It depends on how far it goes, right? But it's good to start thinking about that now, because this is a big year for AI development and robotics. I think by 2028 we're gonna have a really good idea, because I think transhumanism will be a real thing. You know, the control systems will be more in place, all that kind of stuff. But again, if we can awaken and accelerate that process, the more of us that awaken, the more people will awaken, because we're all connected in a unified field of consciousness. So the more that awaken, the easier it is for everybody. So in a perfect world, that we're able to integrate that into mainstream society, and then the awakening happens that way, rather than having to flee for a time being. You'll let them figure it out, and then reintegrate at a later time. So anyway, oh, so you're down under. Wonderful. I love to eat the weeds. Oh, yeah, that's great. So a lot of you, have beautiful, beautiful, lands and things like that. All right, so I hope this was helpful, guys. Thanks again, and Tuesday at 7, we'll do the transmissions. For those of you that follow Let Spirit Guide, Laura's channel, if she's doing it, and because I know, like I said earlier, I know some of you go to both of them, so I try to schedule mine. I know. Also, speaking of that, I think that Sai Ram from Who the Channel is doing a ceremony now. Also, I mean, you can't avoid it. You can't. We've got to. Sometimes we're going to overlap. The point being made is that the transmissions are timeless. So you can, like, I can do an energy transmission, and you could be next Tuesday on the moon, and you'll still get the same energy, because it's not time space dependent. But if you want to get a reading, that's not going to happen. Well, it could happen. You could get a vicarious reading. I shouldn't say that necessarily, but you know what I'm saying. All right. I think it's time to end. I've had a really long day after a really long week, so I'm saying good night. So those of you that want to join us live, Tuesday, 7 o'clock with Heather and I, that's our next live stream. And I'm going to try to upload a video either Tuesday or Wednesday morning about the economy and the coming economic crash. So I'm going to do a psychic forecast about that, because a lot of you have been asking me. I'm going to go into trance, channel some stuff, and see what comes out. All right. Love you guys. Thanks again. And we'll see you next time. Be well.